Across the galaxy, prayers went unanswered. For the first time in 10 millennia, the Emperor's voice fell silent. The priests of the ecclesiarchy screamed in terror, their hymns breaking into static. Shrines burned from within, icons bled gold, and saints turned to dust upon their pedestals. Humanity trembled, not in punishment, but in freedom. On Solstice Prime, the red storm calmed. Where once fire and ruin reigned, now stood a world reborn, a living labyrinth of obsidian and light. Rivers of molten silver flowed through black canyons. Cities rose like cathedral bones from the ash. At its heart stood Leo Valcairn. He no longer bore the mark of the Inquisition. The sigil of the eye had reshaped itself into something new, a symbol neither holy nor heretical, a spiral of light and shadow intertwined. Around him stood thousands, refugees, psychers, deserters, pilgrims, all drawn by something deeper than faith. They did not kneel. They simply listened. Leo's voice carried across the plains like thunder and prayer combined. You were told the Emperor watches you, that he alone can save you. But you forget, he was once as we are, and we, as he once was. The crowd trembled, not in fear, but in revelation. I do not ask your worship, Leo continued, only that you remember. Humanity was never meant to serve gods. We were meant to become them. And with those words, something impossible happened. The air shimmered. The people began to glow, faintly at first, then brighter. Every living soul resonated with a low hum that shook the ground. 1,000 minds, once shackled by dogma and terror, awakened, not as psychers, not as servants of the warp, but as themselves, unbound, untouched. For the first time since the Age of Strife, humanity felt its collective will stir. In the warp, the chaos gods raged. Nurgle's laughter turned to rot and silence. Slaanesh shrieked as the symphony of desire broke out of tune. Singe clawed at the threads of fate, finding them slipping through his talons. And Khorne roared, for there was no war he could fight against belief itself. Even the Emperor, radiant upon his throne, felt the tremor. His consciousness flared outward, touching the souls of his people, and he felt something he had not known since before his ascension. Choice, defiance, hope. A single word escaped his withered lips, unheard by any mortal ear. Leo, for he saw, in the crimson god rising upon Solstice Prime, not rebellion, but remembrance. The Emperor had sacrificed his humanity to preserve mankind. Leo had sacrificed his divinity to return it. Two truths, equal and opposite, bound by blood and faith. In the void between stars, new constellations formed, patterns shaped like eyes, like wings, like flames. Whispers spread through the Imperium. Some called Leo the false saint, others the Red Redeemer, and some dared call him the Second Dawn. The Inquisition prepared its final decree. The Grey Knights marched towards Solstice Prime. And in the warp, the Emperor's golden light and Leo's crimson fire began to merge, not as war, but as memory. For gods may rule the stars, but only humanity can remember what it means to dream. The red light of Solstice Prime stretched across the void like a wound in reality. The golden glare of Terra shone back, distant yet impossible to ignore. Between them, Leo Valcairn stood, no longer merely man, no longer merely god. He had become a nexus, a bridge between the Emperor's light and humanity's forgotten will. Across the Imperium, whispers erupted into chaos. Fleet commanders reported visions in the stars. Astropaths trembled, sending frantic messages of impossible phenomena. The Grey Knights, sworn to destroy psychers, paused as the psychic field around Solstice Prime enveloped them, not with malice, but with recognition. Humanity was awakening. Leo lifted his hand, crimson flames tracing arcs across the sky. Where his gaze fell, reality shimmered, and broken worlds felt the pulse of a new order. He did not command them. He reminded them, remember who you are. And they remembered. Across the galaxy, soldiers laid down arms, priests questioned doctrine, and psychers discovered power beyond dogma. The warp itself bent around this awakening, unable to comprehend a force not of chaos, not of order, but of pure memory. On Terra, the Emperor's throne groaned. His consciousness expanded beyond its golden cage, reaching into the web of stars. He felt the tide of humanity rising, guided by Leo. And for the first time in millennia, he did not resist. Perhaps this is how it was meant to be, his thought whispered. In the void between, Leo and the Emperor's essence shimmered together, not as rivals, but as reflection and shadow, light and fire entwined. A psychic storm of unimaginable magnitude erupted. Stars flared, worlds tilted on their axis. Yet within the chaos, a pattern emerged: harmony. The second dawn had arrived. On Solstice Prime, citizens of all kinds, refugees, warriors, psychers, and scholars, gazed up at the sky. They saw twin lights, red and gold, burning together above the planet. Some called a miracle, some called a warning. All felt it as truth. Humanity remembers, humanity rises, humanity is. And in the deepest reaches of the warp, where even chaos feared to tread, whispers began to circulate. A new god walks among mortals, and the old god watches, learning to bend. The second dawn had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Imperium trembled. Worlds once united under the Emperor's light now whispered of Solstice Prime. The Red God, the name some dare to speak aloud, had awakened something mortal and divine all at once. Loyalists recoiled, heretics rejoiced, and the Grey Knights, Custodes, and Inquisitors scrambled to comprehend what defied their every law. On Terra, the High Lords of Terra convened in urgent council. Reports streamed in, entire sectors abandoning the ecclesiarchy, imperial governors swearing fealty to Solstice Prime, psychers refusing to obey imperial command. Ships of the Adeptus Astartes mutinied mid-orbit. Battles erupted in space where none had fought before. The galaxy was fracturing. Leo Valcairn stood upon the central plaza of the citadel he had shaped from the ruins of Solstice Prime. The twin lights of his red aura and the distant golden shimmer of the Emperor's throne burned across the sky. He raised a hand, but not in command, only an invitation. "You do not need me to follow," he said, "only to remember. The galaxy does not belong to gods alone. It belongs to those who live within it." And they listened. On the edges of the Imperium, scattered war bands and rogue planets joined the awakening. Some saw Leo as a prophet, others as a tyrant. Yet all felt the surge of potential, a truth beyond doctrine, beyond fire, beyond the chains of millennia of obedience. Humanity remembers. Humanity rises. Humanity chooses. The Emperor's golden light flared across the void. His psychic gaze met Leo's crimson blaze, and a silent understanding passed between them. This war would not be fought with bullets or bolter fire alone. It would be fought in thought, in faith, in the very memory of every living soul. Across the Imperium, battles erupted. The Grey Knights confronted awakened psychers who were neither heretic nor loyalist. Inquisitors sought Solstice Prime, only to be halted by fleets loyal not to the Emperor, but to the truth of choice. Armies fractured, and entire sectors became free cities, independent, self-aware, and unwilling to kneel. In the warp, the Chaos Gods watched. The Red God, Leo Valcairn, was no longer mortal, no longer divine, no longer bound by their schemes. He had become a force beyond corruption. Even they feared him, and amidst the war, the stars themselves seemed to pulse in rhythm with his will. A single thought passed through the minds of all who could hear. The Imperium is no longer whole, and the age of gods must bend to the age of humanity. The fractured Imperium had begun, and in the shadows of the shattered stars, the first steps toward a new order were already being taken. The stars themselves bled. Reality cracked like old glass as two divine forces tore at the fabric of existence. From the Emperor's golden throne radiated the light of ancient dominion, pure, absolute, forged through the agony of uncounted souls. From Solstice Prime burned a red nova, new, defiant, pulsing with unrestrained will. Between them stretched the warp, a storm of thought and horror, where demons fled screaming and gods turned their gaze away. On Terra, the Astronomicon faltered. Its once steady beacon flickered as the Emperor's focus fractured, half turned toward the newborn divinity, challenging his reign. Across the Imperium, fleets lost their path. Whole sectors vanished into warp storms. To the ecclesiarchy, it was heresy made manifest. To the Inquisition, it was apocalypse. Armadas assembled, Titan legions, Grey Knights, black ships heavy with psychers whose minds would burn as fuel for the throne. All of it aimed toward one world, Solstice Prime. Leo Valcairn stood upon his citadel of living metal, now risen fully from the planet's corpse. The air shimmered around him with psychic energy. The prayers of billions twisted into his veins. His form was no longer constant. At times he seemed human, cloaked in the remnants of inquisitorial black. At others, a being of radiant crimson flame, eyes like dying stars. He felt the Emperor's will pressing down, a weight that could break worlds. In this, child, came the voice that filled the cosmos. You were born of my light. Return to it before all burns. Leo's reply was calm, yet heavy with conviction. I am not your light. I am your shadow, the truth you buried when you chose the throne over freedom. The warp screamed as the two forces collided again. Faith against revelation, obedience against understanding. The psychic backlash tore entire systems apart. Moons cracked, suns dimmed. Even the chaos gods paused in their eternal conflict, watching in uneasy silence. Khorne's laughter faltered. Sench's schemes stilled, for they sensed something neither chaos nor order had birthed, a will beyond control. On Terra, the Emperor's custodians stood unmoving before the throne. The golden machine groaned and pulsed as the Emperor's consciousness strained against its limits. In the warp, his golden image rose vast and radiant, a god forged from faith and pain. Opposite him stood Leo, his crimson aura flaring with the energy of forgotten stars. Between them, the void bent. Their words became storms. Their thoughts became weapons. You cannot save them, the Emperor thundered. Without the throne, humanity will drown in madness. Then let it learn to swim, Leo answered. And with that, he reached into the warp and tore. A fissure opened, vast, impossible, splitting the immaterium from the materium. Light and darkness poured through, mingling for the first time since the birth of the gods. Across the galaxy, mortals felt it, a presence both divine and terrible, whispering inside every soul, there is another way. In the eye of terror, demons howled. On Terra, the Emperor's eyes opened, golden fire leaking down his face like tears. And in the heart of Solstice Prime, Leo Valcairn ascended, neither man nor monster, but something far greater. The war had only begun, and the heavens themselves trembled at the birth of choice. The warp burned, not with chaos, not with madness, but with memory. Through the tides of unreality, two lights collided, one golden, ancient, bound by millennia of faith and sacrifice, the other crimson, newborn, raw with defiance and truth. Their meeting tore holes in the veil between realms. Leo Valcairn hovered at the center of it, his mortal form long since consumed by the storm. His consciousness stretched beyond flesh, beyond sanity. Around him, the fragments of Solstice Prime dissolved into pure energy, its ashes reborn as a world of shifting thought. He heard them all, the prayers of dying soldiers, the screams of heretics, the endless hymns echoing from cathedrals on 1,000 worlds. They all fed into him. He understood now. The Emperor had not become a god because he sought it. He had become one because humanity demanded it, and faith, when vast enough, bends even gods to its will. But Leo was different. He did not seek worship. He sought truth. You chained the stars to a corpse. Leo's voice echoed across the void. You turned faith into a weapon, and you called it salvation. From the heart of the warp, The Emperor's light blazed, blinding, immense, sorrowful. "Without me, mankind would have perished. And with you," Leo answered, "it forgot how to live." The clash was not of matter, but of meaning. Every thought, every belief became a blade. Millions of souls perished instantly as psychic energy erupted through the materium. Astropaths went blind. War drives failed. Planets trembled under the strain of divine fury. In the cathedral of the Emperor's name on Terra, statues cracked. Saintly relics bled light. The Adeptus Custodes knelt, unable to rise, their souls crushed beneath two opposing truths. The galaxy split along invisible lines. Some whispered of a second god, the red star burning beside the golden throne. Others called it blasphemy, a test, a shadow of the arch-traitor reborn. But the warp did not lie. Something new had entered the great equation, something neither Emperor nor chaos could contain. Leo stood upon the ruins of a forgotten dream. He saw visions of a future where the Imperium was not ruled by chains, but by choice. A future where gods were not worshipped, but understood. And he saw the cost. "Every god demands a sacrifice," whispered the voice of the vault. "What will yours be?" Leo looked toward the stars. The Inquisition fleets were coming, hundreds of ships, sanctified with holy fire, carrying the fury of the Imperium. At their center flew the Lance of Terra, the Emperor's chosen vessel, bearing a single message: by his will, you will burn. Leo closed his eyes. His hand rose, haloed in crimson light. "Then let us see whose will truly rules the stars." The void screamed. The first salvo struck, and the war between gods began. The void was vast and cold, an endless sea of silence where light itself seemed to wither. Amid that black expanse drifted the imperial frigate Sanctus Veritas, its hull scarred by millennia of forgotten wars. Once a proud vessel of the Ordo Hereticus, it now moved without purpose, a ghost in the dark. Inquisitor Elio Valcairn stood within the shattered sanctum of the bridge, gazing into the flickering hollow displays. His armor bore the sigil of the Inquisition, but the red eye had been scorched black, its purity lost to fire and betrayal. He had once hunted heretics with holy fury. Now, whispers followed him, accusations of heresy, of consorting with forbidden knowledge. The Emperor's light had dimmed in his eyes, replaced by a question no loyal servant dared to ask. What if the Emperor was never meant to be eternal? A low hum filled the chamber. A servo skull drifted past, its cracked lenses glowing faintly blue. From its vox emitter came a faint recording. His own voice, years old. "Purge them all. Faith is the only truth." The sound twisted his gut. He remembered the screams, the burning of a hive world consumed in righteous fire, because one psyker had spoken of visions that defied the ecclesiarchy scripture. He had ordered it. He had believed it was justice. But now, justice felt hollow. The ship's machine's spirit growled through the walls, ancient and angry. Systems flared to life on their own, targeting arrays, auspex sensors, vox relays. Something, or someone, was awakening the vessel. Authorization code. Inquisitor Valcairn, Sigma 79, he commanded. The vox replied with a tone of static. Then a voice, distant, distorted, and impossibly familiar. "You are not Leo Valcairn." Leo Valcairn died on Solstice Prime. He froze. The voice was his own. Outside the viewport, a crimson storm coiled through the warp, a wound in reality itself. The ship's sensors screamed warnings of psychic disturbance. And from the void beyond the storm came a shape, a vessel of impossible design, alive, shifting, whispering his name across the immaterium. "Elio." He turned toward the sound, his eyes reflecting the crimson light of the warp. If this was damnation, he thought, then perhaps he deserved it. The Emperor was silent. Only the warp answered. The crimson storm tore at the edges of reality, painting the void in bleeding light. Lightning arced across the Sanctus Veritas, rippling through its decaying hull. Alarm screamed, but Leo Valcairn stood unmoving, transfixed by the spectral vessel drifting just beyond the warp veil. It was unlike anything born of the Imperium. Its surface shimmered as if alive, metallic flesh pulsing with a rhythm that echoed the heartbeat of a god long dead. The air aboard his ship thickened with static and whispers, voices overlapping in 1,000 forgotten tongues. Leo returned to Solstice Prime. The words crawled through his mind like worms. Solstice Prime, the world he had burned in holy fire. 10 billion lives turned to ash in a single decree. He had ordered the Exterminatus, believing it a righteous act. But what if the planet hadn't been corrupted? What if it had been warning him? The memory returned in flashes, the Psyker child trembling before him, eyes filled with terror, whispering, "He watches from the void. The Inquisitor will awaken him." He had silenced the child with a bolt round to the skull. Now, in the warp's crimson glow, that same voice echoed through the Vox. "Who are you?" Leo whispered. "What are you?" The answer came not in words, but in feeling, a flood of memories not his own. He saw Solstice Prime as it once was, towers of glass, oceans of light, billions praying to the Emperor's image. Then he saw the truth beneath, a buried vault, ancient beyond humanity's reckoning. Inside it a sigil, not of chaos, not of the Emperor, something older. The ship shuddered violently. Consoles erupted in sparks. Machine spirits wailed in pain as the Sanctus Veritas was pulled toward the storm. Leo staggered, gripping his rosette. Machine spirit, engage thrusters. But the spirit refused. It no longer obeyed him. He realized, with a chill, that his vessel's core was no longer imperial. The warp had infected it, reshaped it in its own image. The shadow ship beyond the veil began to open, its hull unfolding like the petals of a steel flower. Within, he saw a structure, an altar, carved from black stone that pulsed with red light. And upon that altar lay his own body. He stared in horror. The corpse was armored, identical down to the seal of the Inquisition, but its chest was carved open, its heart replaced by a throbbing crystal of living light. The Vox crackled again. His own voice, calm and cold, whispered, "Welcome home, Inquisitor. The Emperor has no power here." The warp screamed, reality shattered, and Leo Valcairn, Inquisitor, heretic, ghost, was pulled into the storm that bore his name. The galaxy stirred. Solstice Prime's light pulsed across the void, a beacon of memory and free will that touched every corner of the Imperium. Planets once chained by doctrine awoke to choice. Refugees and exiles formed new settlements. Armies pledged not to the Emperor, not to chaos, but to the principle of humanity reclaiming its own destiny. Leo Valcairn walked through the central plaza of his living citadel. The black stone beneath his feet pulsed faintly, a reflection of the energy flowing through the awakened populace. "The Imperium is not a cage," he said to those around him. "It is a garden. Tend it, nourish it, and it will bloom. Force it, and it will rot." Across the stars, factions began to form. Some loyal to Terra resisted, believing the Emperor's authority was absolute. Others pledged to Leo, seeing in him a god who remembered humanity's forgotten rights. Mercenaries, psychers, even some Space Marine chapters declared independence, drawn by a vision of a galaxy governed by choice. Humanity remembers. Humanity rises. Humanity shapes its own future. The Emperor, seated upon the golden throne, watched. His golden light touched the warp, feeling the pulse of free minds across the galaxy. For the first time in 10,000 years, he did not attempt to dominate. Instead, he observed aloud and learned. Perhaps this was the future he had overlooked. On Solstice Prime, Leo stood at the top of his citadel, gazing at the stars. Twin lights, red and gold, shimmered above him, intertwined yet distinct. The galaxy would never kneel in the same way again. Ships rose from the planet's surface, fleets once loyal to Terra, now exploring new frontiers of thought and power. Planets began sending emissaries, philosophers, and soldiers seeking knowledge, not orders. In the warp, the chaos gods recoiled. They had no hand in this rising. Their schemes could not twist the free will now flowing through billions of awakened souls. Even they feared it, the birth of a galaxy that would no longer bow to gods alone. And amidst the awakening, Leo whispered, "This is only the beginning. The Imperium will remember itself, or it will burn. But it will choose." The stars pulsed in response. A new age had begun. The awakening of the Imperium was underway. The Imperium broke, not in a single strike, not in a single war, but in whispers, choices, and the quiet defiance of countless worlds. The first schism had begun. On Terra, the High Lords convened in panic. Fleet admirals reported colonies refusing imperial taxes. Governors no longer obeyed orders. Astropaths trembled as messages from Solstice Prime carried visions of choice and freedom, ideas that could not be crushed. The Inquisition fumed. "This is heresy," one proclaimed. "A red god challenges the Emperor himself." But across the stars, whispers spread. "We remember who we are. We're not slaves. We are humanity." Leo Valcairn stood on Solstice Prime, atop the obsidian citadel of his awakening world. The twin lights of red and gold burned above him. He did not seek dominion. He sought understanding. He extended his hand, not as a command, but as an invitation. "The galaxy may fracture," he said, his voice carrying across the void. "Let fracture. Let it choose. And in its choosing, it will remember itself." The first open rebellion erupted on Cygnus 9, a wealthy sector loyal to Terra. Worlds abandoned the High Lords, declaring fealty to Leo's vision. Astartes' chapter split. Some remained loyal, others joined the Awakened. Grey Knights argued, unable to act without violating their own oaths of judgment. The Imperium was no longer monolithic. It was a living organism, bleeding, choosing, shaping itself anew. In the warp, the chaos god stirred. Khorne sharpened his rage, Sinch spun desperate schemes, Slaanesh hissed in discontent, and Nurgle's rot curdled. Yet none could bend the will now rising from humanity. It was not chaos. It was not order. It was free will, incarnate, radiant, unstoppable. On Solstice Prime, Leo gazed at the stars. Fleets loyal to Terra and fleets loyal to choice began moving across the void, not yet clashing, but aware of each other's presence. The schism was not war, yet. It was recognition. Humanity remembers. Humanity rises. Humanity will choose. The galaxy held its breath. The first schism had fractured the Imperium. Old orders trembled. New orders awoke. And amidst the void, Leo Valcairn, Red God, memory incarnate, waited. "Let the first war begin," he whispered, "and let it be for choice." The Imperium shattered. Worlds rose against worlds. Armadas clashed in the void, not merely with bolters or titans, but with wills and memories that bent reality itself. Psykers awoke across countless worlds, resonating with Leo's crimson light. Fleets loyal to Terra hesitated, their crews touched by something impossible, the promise of choice. Chaos surged into the war, seeing opportunity in fractured faith. Demons poured into vulnerable systems, hoping to twist the conflict to their own ends. But humanity had awakened. For the first time, free will became a weapon stronger than any demon, stronger than any god. Leo Valcairn stood atop the living citadel of Solstice Prime. His crimson aura flared as fleets approached. He raised a hand, and the battlefield paused, not in obedience, but in recognition. Soldiers, psykers, and even captains of warships felt the weight of his presence. "You fight as you always have, because you are told to," he said. "But now, you may fight because you choose to. This is your awakening." The Emperor, golden and radiant upon the golden throne, extended his psychic might across the stars. "Leo, this cannot stand. The Imperium must endure." "It will endure differently," Leo replied. "Not as slaves, not as worshippers, but as the memory of what humanity was meant to be." Their psychic clash erupted across the void. Stars flared. Worlds trembled. Chaos itself recoiled. Yet within the storm, a strange balance formed. Red and gold intertwined, neither dominant, neither defeated. On the battlefield, the awakened fought not for Terra, not for Solstice Prime, not for gods or demons, but for themselves. Fleets disengaged, titans paused, and armies laid down arms mid-battle, unsure who they served, and realizing they could serve no one but themselves. The awakening war ended not with victory, but with understanding. The galaxy exhaled. Solstice Prime stood as a beacon of choice. The twin lights of red and gold shimmered across the stars, a reminder of the delicate balance between freedom and order. Leo Valcairn walked among humanity, no longer God, no longer mortal, but the bridge between what was and what could be. The Imperium will never kneel as it did before, he said. It will rise, fall, and rise again, always remembering itself. The Emperor, golden and silent upon his throne, observed. For the first time in millennia, he did not command. He watched and allowed humanity to define its own destiny, not as a tool of gods, not as servants of power, but as beings capable of choice. Factions of the Imperium realigned, some loyal to Terra, some loyal to Solstice Prime, all aware of a new reality. Humanity was no longer a singular empire, nor was it bound to gods alone. Planets, fleets, and armies began shaping a galaxy defined by freedom, fragile, dangerous, and alive. In the warp, the chaos gods recoiled. They had underestimated the power of choice, of memory, of self-awareness. The red god had shown them a force even they could not bend. Leo gazed into the stars. He whispered to the galaxy, "Remember, rise, choose. Humanity is its own god now." The twin lights above, red and gold, flared one final time. The galaxy had changed forever. The new galaxy had begun, and the legacy of Leo, the fallen Inquisitor, would echo across the stars for eternity. The void between Solstice Prime and Terra trembled, not with ships or armies, but with the clash of wills. Two forces, once part of the same soul, now stood opposed. The Emperor, ancient and golden, and Leo Valcairn, crimson and unbound. The warp itself shuddered. Reality cracked, raining shards of impossible stars across the space between, each fragment a reflection of battles fought and choices denied. On Terra, the High Lords of Terra screamed in panic. Armies faltered. The Adeptus Custodes drew their weapons, but even their golden blades trembled before the psychic storm that stretched across the galaxy. Astropaths howled, voices breaking under the strain of visions no mind should endure. The Imperium was fracturing faster than any could contain. Leo Valcairn stood atop the living citadel of Solstice Prime, his crimson aura flaring outward like a storm consuming the sky. He lifted his hand, and the stars themselves shifted in response. "You built an empire to cage humanity," he said. "Now watch it awaken." From Terra, the Emperor's golden psychic light surged in response, a wave of authority and fury that rippled across the cosmos. "You were never meant to rise," his voice thundered. "You are a fragment, a shadow. Return to your place." "No," Leo whispered, calm and terrible. "I'm the memory you buried. I am the choice you denied." The convergence began. Where red met gold, the stars ignited. Solar systems shattered into fields of psychic fire. Planets turned to molten thought before solidifying into new forms. Armadas collided in the void, yet none could strike. Weapons bent, bolters misfired, void shields twisted by psychic tides. Every living soul capable of thought felt it. A pull between light and shadow, obedience and freedom, past and future. In the warp, the chaos gods roared in disbelief. Khorne's rage boiled, yet even he could not strike. Sench's schemes unraveled. Nurgle's rot withered in fear. Slanish's whispers shattered into screams. The red god and the golden god were beyond them, and the universe itself trembled. For a moment, everything was still. The Emperor's gaze met Leo's. Across the psychic void, time stretched, and possibilities unfurled. Neither could destroy the other. Neither could dominate the other. And in that silence, the galaxy understood something no doctrine had ever taught. The war is not for obedience. It is for understanding. Leo lowered his hand. The crimson storm softened into rippling light. The Emperor's golden glow pulsed with restraint. And for the first time, the two forces stood together, not as master and servant, not as God and fragment, but as two reflections of a truth larger than either. Above Solstice Prime, twin lights burned bright, crimson and gold, separate yet entwined. The convergence of light and shadow had begun, and the Imperium, fractured and fearful, would never be the same. The galaxy no longer obeyed. Solstice Prime had become the epicenter of a new consciousness, a beacon of memory and choice. Around it, worlds awoke. Cities abandoned centuries of doctrine. Priests questioned dogma. Soldiers laid down arms not in surrender, but in recognition of a higher truth. Humanity had been bound for too long. Leo Valcairn walked among the awakened. He no longer bore the mark of the Inquisition. His red aura pulsed softly, a constant reminder that freedom could be dangerous and beautiful all at once. You are not slaves to the stars, he told the masses. You are not tools for gods. You are memory. You are choice. You are humanity. They listened, and as they did, something impossible happened. Across the galaxy, psychers of every rank began to resonate with the same pulse. Some had been loyal to the Emperor. Some had served chaos. Some had hidden in fear for decades. All felt the awakening. Humanity remembers. Humanity rises. Humanity chooses. On Terra, the Golden Throne pulsed with a strange resonance. The Emperor felt it, not as anger, not as rage, but as awareness. A part of his empire was no longer his, and yet it was alive, vibrant, real. He allowed it. For the first time, the Emperor understood that control was not salvation. Guidance, however, could be wisdom. The Inquisition fractured. Some saw Leo as heretic and blasphemy incarnate. Others saw him as savior and guide. Grey Knights debated whether to strike or to observe. The Adeptus Astartes divided, some loyal to Terra, others drawn to Solstice Prime's new vision. Fleets aligned, not by command, but by belief. Entire sectors became independent, and in the warp, the chaos gods recoiled, powerless to manipulate a force born of free choice. Leo stood at the center of his citadel. The twin lights above, red and gold, reflected his face. He knew the galaxy would never be whole in the way it once was, nor did he want it to be. The Imperium is not mine to rule, he said softly. It belongs to those who live within it. I will show them the path, and they will choose their own way. And with that, he raised his hand. Worlds trembled, stars pulsed, and a new order began to take shape. Neither empire nor chaos, neither god nor mortal, but humanity, remembering itself at last. In the shadows of the Imperium, whispers spread. The red god walks among men. The golden throne watches, learning. And a new dawn rises. The new order of humanity had begun, and the galaxy would never kneel the same way again.